At Vanderbilt, it's Tim Corbin in the Vandy Boys, Jerry Stackhouse on the hardwood, and Clark Lee on the gridiron. Nashville, it's time to sit back, relax, grab a cold one, and enjoy the show. The Music City is our stage, and West End is where we rock. You're listening to The Door Report, the premier Vanderbilt podcast for fans who bleed black and gold. Commodore Nation, anchor down.
No strings till the Hank comes out. Make all the drunk girls scream and shout. We love it, we hate it, we're all just trying to make it in this crazy town.
Welcome into another episode of The Door Report. It is episode 190.
When did our video stream go live there?
Our video stream went live at 7 o'clock on the dot. You there, Will?
Okay, we're off to continue. We're off to a super hot start. Yep, we're off to a super hot start. I thought we took a second there to actually show that we were up on the screen. So continue. We've already messed up. Restart. Ignore I said anything.
Oh, it's episode 190. It is a Thursday night, November the 10th.
Great.
We are powered by Alaco Fine Wood Floors. They are family owned and operated for more than 2 decades. Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville, Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors since 1995. Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you're interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue over in Berry Hill, or you can call them at 615-356-0303. That's the number. Almost forgot the number there. Or you can log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995. Well, we never got a chance to recap South Carolina. So that's what we're going to do a little bit of today. And Will, you're shaking your head. You got me?
This is always really fun because I have a $150 Walmart laptop currently because they're my body. So I don't even know if anyone's hearing this out there right now because your face is frozen on my screen. But I'm hoping this smooths out on the live broadcast as we continue, because right now, Billy, I have no idea if you're saying anything.
I think last time you joined via phone, so you checked in on your phone. So issues with Will so far.
Is this better? Is this better?
That's better. You got me? Can you hear me, Will?
Yeah. But at least you can hear.
Yeah, you got me, Will?
Hear my voice. You seem to be not freezing.
Oh, well, now I'm not getting you. Here, Will, I'm going to send you in the chat, in the private chat we got here. I'm going to ask you to join from your phone. So I'm going to ask you to join from your phone, if that is possible. So a little bit of a delay from Will so far. So Will, we're gonna get Will back in here via his phone. We got a couple comments here in the comments section. Scott Derrick, Tier 1 represent. Got Cameron Gadd. What's up, Billy? So you guys, if you do have any questions or comments heading into the Kentucky game, feel free to fire those at us. Will be getting back in here shortly. We will have Trevor Hulan. He will check in with us. He's known as Hack Squat Jim Duggan on Twitter. So he will also check in with us a little bit later. So South Carolina recap here. I'll go ahead and get into it. And once we get Will in here, I'll get his take on it. But South Carolina defeated Vanderbilt 38-27 here in Nashville. you give up 38 points to an offense that has really struggled as of late. I mean, I went into this South Carolina game, Will and I both did, fairly confident about Vanderbilt's chances, in this game. And we are gonna try to test Will out here again with the phone.
Can you hear me, Billy? How's it going?
Good.
All
Well,
right.
you got
this
me.
This is a lovely image. All right, let me get set up. Let's see if we can get this actually working.
You actually sound pretty solid, Will.
Pretty solid?
Yeah.
Right. You might have me with solid internet connection, actually, for the first time.
Oh, it's good
device,
so far. It is.
All right. Good thing all of my notes are on my phone, and I cannot access any of it. So I'm just going to leave it as is and hope I can remember what I had written down. So that'll be good for the first live.
Oh, there we go. We will smooth this out, guys. Stick with us. Keep swinging with us. We will continue to do these lives. We're going to get you some Ethernet. Do you have Ethernet? I wonder how we could do that.
I do have it's not a problem of internet connection, Billy. It's a problem of I have a very cheap laptop. That's the problem.
Okay.
I know what it is.
Okay. Hey, that's
my
okay.
own fault.
That's totally fine. But we are raring and ready to go here. Hot start to the we've done lives before, but we're starting a little bit of a new process here. So bear with us, everybody. But Will, I was getting to the South Carolina recap a little bit, and I started by saying, we had high expectations. I mean, we both predicted Vanderbilt to win this game. I don't know about deep down confidence, but we were both fairly confident. I mean, I felt good about Vanderbilt's chances, and we're not gonna spend too much time on the South Carolina game, but I do want to get kind of, you were there, I was there. Crowd wasn't great. Of course, there were a lot of Gamecocks there, but I just said, Will, when you were off, you got back on here, but I said you give up 38 to an offense that has really struggled. And you said it. You said it, Will. You said it last time. You said this is a get-right game, potentially, for Spencer Rattler. And, that's what it was. That's what it ended up being. He was graded, I think, a 94.4 on Pro Football Focus. So he played his butt off. But a lot of that was, what the Vanderbilt defense just wasn't able to do. They couldn't tackle. So, well, I look at this. Yeah, you were able to run the ball with Ray Davis. Quincy Skinner had a little bit of a breakout, but defense still, and I told my brother after the game, I said, this defense looks worse than last year. And, Jesse Minter, of course, is with Michigan now, but that's what I look at. I look at it's sort of a downward trajectory, at least in 2 years with the defense. So, that's the story. Well, the offense, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain against Mizzou. They certainly didn't. But this game, they ran the football. Quincy Skinner looked good. Shepard had a good game. So, you can't really you can't complain about the offense, really.
What the issue was. It's been the same issue that we have seen the entire year play out on the field. It's what we talked about at the beginning of the season, that the run defense and the front seven would be pretty solid. And especially when we got later in the year, that for the most part, the run defense wouldn't really be the problem, but the secondary had a lot of issues. And Jalen Mahoney, who was by far your best corner last season, shifting over to safety, hasn't masked those issues enough. And you combine that with missed tackles, and you're just in for a recipe of disaster when you have a former 5-star quarterback and a guy that's probably still going to get a shot on an NFL roster somewhere, at least in training camp, in Spencer Rattler. It's amazing how many times that those guys come into now First Bank Stadium and have their get-right game.
Yep.
Amazingly, the passing offense all of a sudden, and this is before Clark Lee's time, is clicking on all cylinders. And for whatever reason, it just is. And
little bit of a freeze there from Will, at least on my end. We'll see if we get you back there, Will. But yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a get right game for Spencer Rattler. Will, you got me?
Are you back? Dude, this live stuff's a disaster. It's awful. We got to stop. It's terrible. Where did you stop being able to hear me?
I stopped you, or you stopped at Rattler.
I didn't stop the internet.
The get right game for Rattler. Things of that nature. Huh? Yeah,
whatever I was saying probably wasn't that important. Spencer Rattler looked good. Our secondary looked bad. The run defense isn't necessarily the problem, but right now it's just a talent gap that can pretty much sum up anything that was missed and or any misinterpretation of what I said. The current players in the secondary right now just aren't good enough to stop SEC passing offenses. The front seven right now is marginal at best. It's not a dominant run defense, but it's pretty solid. You have some guys, especially Anthony Orji, who's going to be playing at the next level. And once they get Davion Davis back, you could see that run defense and at least a little bit more of a semblance of a pass rush. But everyone knows where the issues lie at this point. We've seen enough games. We've seen enough. Teams are going to be able to pass against this offense. And you have another example of a team this weekend, Billy. I don't want to get too far ahead on this South Carolina quote-unquote recap, but you have another guy that was a projected first-round pick at one point in his football playing career, and things haven't necessarily played out this season how Kentucky fans or Will Levis expected. But it was very recently that passing offense was expected to be a lot better than it has been, and I imagine that maybe this weekend will be a chance for him to show some of that arm talent against a pretty pitiful Vanderbilt secondary.
Yeah, and Will, going into the year, I think we still knew, how big of an issue the secondary was. I don't know to this extent, that we thought it would be, this much of an issue still. But I mean, at this point, the offense is. It's hard to say you can win games with this offense, but if the defense plays even a little bit better, I think you have a shot against South Carolina if you make a few more tackles. I mean, I really do. The offense ran the ball hard. Ray Davis ran the ball. So the offense held up there into the bargain. But now the defense played so well against Missouri. And I know it's a different offense. You can argue that. So you are comparing, different offenses there. But this team they have yet to put together a 4-quarter performance. And so, maybe it's Kentucky, maybe it's Florida, maybe it doesn't happen again this year. But at the end of the day, you've got to be balanced. And this team had, I think for the first time, that offense found a little bit of balance. I mean, like I said, you couldn't complain a whole lot about what you saw from the offense. But yeah, well, so, like I said, I didn't want to get too much into that South Carolina game. We didn't have. At this point, we're harping on very similar things for most of these SEC games anyway. So, we decided to just kind of keep rolling here. Let's get to Kentucky. And we're going to get right to it. Like I said, we do have Trevor Hulan checking in with us a little bit later. He's going to join us for the prediction segment. And then Dick Gabriel, longtime Lexington sports talk radio host, is going to check in a little bit later as well to give us a full preview on Vandy-Kentucky. Well, first on Kentucky, this is a team last year that, they dominated Vanderbilt. It was 34-17. Vandy scored a couple of late touchdowns there to make the score a little bit respectable. Rodriguez last year ran wild against Vandy, 114 yards on the ground. But Will, I think in this game, I heard it's supposed to be in the 50s. Is it supposed to be in the 50s? And like rainy? I heard some people talking about how there might be some sleet on Saturday up in Lexington, which is wild to think about. So I think obviously weather, we usually say helps Vanderbilt. I don't know about it in this case, but I think anything that will, prevent Will Levis from maybe completing passes down the field is going to help Vanderbilt. So maybe it does. So Will, I think the weather could play a role, but I still look at Vanderbilt's defense, kind of overall in this game. You got to stop Chris Rodriguez, but you also have to get pressure on Levis. And Vanderbilt has not been able to get pressure on anybody this year. So you can't do that. And you can't do that in a semblance of representation. You're not really going to be close.
Yeah, Kentucky's had a disappointing season. And I think a lot of that has come from the offensive production that they've seen. And their defense has been good, but it hasn't been dominant. It hasn't been, as good as a Georgia defense or some of those SEC defenses that we've seen in the past. So the season's been a disappointment just because of the expectation. But let's keep in mind that this team was number 24 in the college football playoff rankings. They're an 18-point favorite. So a lot of the storylines are around Kentucky having a disappointing season, but it hasn't been that disappointing. They haven't been absolutely terrible. They have a lot of talent on this roster. And there's a reason Vanderbilt's an 18-point underdog, and the over-under's at 47.5, because I think it's going to be a tough road to scoring points against this Kentucky team. And in that sleet, in that rain, I don't know if that helps Vanderbilt, even if Will Levis is less able to throw the ball down the field. This team right now in Kentucky throws the ball on like 44% of their offensive plays and runs the ball 55% of the time. So that's what they want to do. I wanted one of my keys to be something around dominate the line of scrimmage or make it grimy or make it ugly. But in all actuality, when you look at it, the reason this seems like a relatively good matchup for Vanderbilt to keep it close is because Kentucky's built in the mold that Vanderbilt's going to have to be built in. Not a traditional football power. They built around some solid recruiting classes. They haven't had gigantic splash recruiting classes, but they've done a good job building that program up there. And it's going to be a really tough road for Vanderbilt to play a mirror image of its hopeful self in 5 years and go out there and get a win or keep it relatively competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anytime you go up to Lexington, it's just not fun for Vandy. I mean, but Will, going back to, the Franklin era and the Bobby Johnson era, I mean, that Vanderbilt-Kentucky rivalry per se was pretty competitive. I mean, that I saw some numbers where, it was 40. The series was tied at one point. I mean, I think that had been close, but ever since Mark Stoops got to Lexington, they have kind of tightened the hatches a little bit there, and especially with the lower tier teams in the SEC. I actually talked about that with Dick Gabriel coming up. So, Will, you ready? Let's just hop in. Let's hop in. 3 keys to a Commodore victory on Saturday, Vandy and Kentucky. It is an 11 a.m. kick. Will, so I don't know what the crowd will look like. I wouldn't assume great. So that's what we got there. Well, I'll start here, and it starts with defense. This is a defensive minded episode. This is a Derek Mason type episode here. We're talking a lot of defense. I'm going to start with take better angles. I mean, I know it's very obvious, but Kane Patterson, in an interview, with the media yesterday, I think it was, Will, he talked about pursuit and, taking better angles. And yes, you have to have the speed to do that. But I do think that is a coachable, thing, in the middle of the season. You could do it anything obviously you have to have speed. But if you don't, say, hey, if you take an angle, that aims toward the sideline on a Chris Rodriguez edge run instead of, right at him. I mean, it's coachable, simple things like that I think Vanderbilt can make adjustments on. Now, at the end of the day, you get an end around to Barryon Brown. He's going to beat Vanderbilt off the edge every time. I mean, that's not pursuit. That's not angles. That's pure speed. So at this point in the season, Will, it's hard saying this in a preview, take better angles. Yeah. Oh, nice. Thanks, Billy. But I do think that is Kane Patterson talked about it. He said that is an adjustment we can make, especially for him at the linebacker position. I mean, we see Anthony Orji, he's in on pretty much every tackle. I mean, if you look at it, he's the one guy that is pursuing well. He's taking the angles, but he also has the physical traits to do that. And I think Kane Patterson does as well. We've seen that from the linebacker core all season. I mean, that's what you've seen. So, but it comes to the corners, it comes to the safeties. And that's what teams attack. You saw what South Carolina did well. All they did was swing pass, outrun, first down. I mean, it was literally, I was looking at the people around me. I was just saying, if I'm an offense facing Vanderbilt's defense, all I do is swing passes all day. Just get them outside on the edge. And, if you're Vanderbilt, what do you do to stop it? I don't know. But at the same time, listening to Kane and the kind of the conviction in his voice, he was pretty confident that is an adjustment they can make. They can, work on it all week. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. But I do think, Will, even if you don't have the talent, you can make as a team defense, you can make some of those adjustments. So I know at this point, Will, we, at the beginning of the season, we talk about these keys and we're so, we're confident in them. We love them. I mean, here's our keys of the game. Similar to last season. We're saying some pretty similar keys most weeks, but I tried to get a little bit different. And I haven't had a defensive key. I mean, most of them have been offense for the most part of this season. But I'm going to say, Will, take better angles, whatever that really means, and take that for a grain of salt. But that'll be my first key. Just take better angles.
Yeah, I think pretty much every single key that I really want to put down, I've already had pretty much every single week for the entire season. But I do like to find at least one or two of the three main keys that I haven't used before. And something that I usually just absolutely hate when people discuss is actually going to be something that is going to be my number one key this week, Billy. And that's going to be time of possession. Time of possession, my least favorite, most useless stat of how the game is actually going in modern college football, is going to be very relevant this game. And that's because of how both teams play and the injury situation and thinness Vanderbilt has, especially on the offensive line. If Vanderbilt's able to win the time of possession battle, that doesn't mean that they were just You got me?
Yeah. You got me, Will?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Where did you drop me off there? This is fun.
Dropped it. This hasn't been as bad as I thought. Will, that's number two. We'll see.
Only number two.
You dropped off. Man, I keep forgetting where.
If there's any company that can offer a streaming service, by the way, that will not do this, there is none. We have researched them. Every single one of these live streaming companies across multiple platforms fucking suck.
Is it just an internet?
It's all built. No, it's what I deal with at work every day. It's why people are like, why does this system not work? I'm like, because every single one of these systems is designed to be operated on the equivalent of a $1,000 or $2,000 gaming or stationary home computer. And 99% of people use laptops. So every single platform that is used on a desktop or on a laptop is intended to be used on a desktop. And not one is built on a semi-light platform in between a mobile phone and a fucking desktop. Sorry, Billy, I got to go off live. Where did it drop me off, Billy? By the way,
what was your second key? Just remind me.
My number one key was time of possession. So we need to move on past that.
One. Okay.
Time of possession, even though I hate that. I hate that stat.
Yeah,
because both of these. Yeah, well, I don't know where it cut me off, but both of these teams run the ball a lot. Even though Kentucky has a first-round quarterback that was never actually really going to be a first-round quarterback. I don't know why it was hyped up that way in Levis. But he's a pretty solid quarterback. He's a mid-round guy. They have some talent on the outside, but they run the ball over 55% of the time, ranked in the top 20 percentage-wise. And the real reason they don't throw the ball is their offensive line sucks at pass protection. They're in the bottom 10 in the country in percentage of QB sacks per drop back. So there's just a lot of things on this Kentucky team that aren't good, Billy, but it's hard for me to get fired up about a lot of keys because you really point to the other side. And so far this year, really, Vanderbilt's been worse. So my number one key is win time of possession, hold the ball, because otherwise you just won't be able to hold up against this Kentucky line on both sides, really. And the time of possession is going to tell the story if Mike Wright's able to operate this offense at all in the absence of AJ Swann.
Yeah, I mean, the South Carolina game did a lot. At least I think to Vanderbilt fans, it did a lot to me and my perception of this team and the overall perception of this season. Really, I mean, you look at what happened in the game, and Vanderbilt's offense was able to get some things done, but at the end of the day, they're not able to string together a 4-quarter game, and the defense is just not able to play complementary football. So. I mean, you look at it, it's just, I think it changed a lot. It changed a lot of not saying Vanderbilt fans, everyone was expecting a win, but I'm saying that there was some confidence, I think, just like there was confidence heading into Memorial Gym on Monday night. I mean, there was confidence on both games. So, Will, I'll go to number 2 here. Make the game ugly if that's possible. So if that's at all possible to do, if you're Vanderbilt, make the game ugly any way you can, whether it's, time of possession, like you just said, Will, run the football. Kentucky does have a good defense, so maybe you're not able to establish the run the way you were against South Carolina, and all this is sort of out the door. But Will, I do think if Vanderbilt is able with the weather, you're going to have maybe some sleet. It's going to be cold. Maybe you're able to run the football, muddy the game up a little bit. Patrick Smith, Will, if you remember, had a good game against Kentucky last year. I think he ran for almost 90 yards on the ground. So a lot of that was probably late in the game, but they were able to find a little bit of success on the ground last year against Kentucky. So I think if you're able to just make the game somewhat ugly, Kentucky usually does that. So they may do that anyway. So this might end up being just an ugly game from both fronts. I mean, last week's Kentucky-Missouri game was a travesty. I mean, I don't know if you saw that, Will, but it was a weird play with the punter. He barely got the punt off, but he actually ended up getting hurt. So it was just crazy. It was wild stuff. It's everything you expected to see in a Kentucky-Missouri game. And I expect to see some of the same. And I think that's a good thing for Vanderbilt. I'm not saying Vanderbilt is coming to this game with riding high, all kinds of confidence. But I do think, the weather plays a factor in this game. So that means Vanderbilt should be able to make the game ugly somewhat. I'm not saying they're going to be able to dominate time of possession or anything like that and hold on to the ball and just, have these long methodical drives. But I think if you're creative enough with Ray Davis and Patrick Smith and Mike Wright in that run game, we saw what they could do against South Carolina. And South Carolina, it's not a great defense. But it's also not a terrible it's not piss poor. So, I think Vanderbilt showed that they can run the football. But then again, you're playing a team like Kentucky with a better D-line, a better really overall defense. I'm stretching here. My elbow hurts from all this stretching, Will. But at the end of the day, I think if you can do it, make the game ugly. And like I said, Kentucky's probably going to do it anyway. So it's going to be an ugly game anyway. But I think if you are Vanderbilt and you obviously want to have a chance to compete and win this game, that's one of the things you got to do. You got to try to make the game ugly. Like I said, block a punt, just make it ugly to watch. Don't make people want to watch this game. Not that anybody even wants to watch this game anyway.
Yeah, Billy, I was really hoping that I would be able to use my phone. I had a really good little few sentences written down for my key number 2, but I'm going to wing it here. My key number 2 is going to be what I flashed during yours. Vanderbilt fans, get a bottle of something to wash down, because do you remember the game last year? Do you remember what happened? This year is going to be the exact same thing. I'm not saying Vanderbilt hasn't improved. They clearly are a better product on the field. They've improved probably 10, 20% even. A 20% improvement over what they were last year, if not more. And it's raised them up 20, 30, 40 spots in the overall hierarchy of college football if they were to play every single FBS opponent and be slotted against them. It's not going to make a difference against SEC teams and SEC talent this year. And you saw that against South Carolina. That was the last opportunity to have a victory. These aren't keys to victory anymore. These are keys to success, as we rephrased them during a stretch during this I should have
rephrased them. I should have rephrased
them. I don't want to say and everything I say, because in my heart of hearts, I'm a Vanderbilt fan, and I always hope when I take a strong stance in opposition towards the outcome of a Vanderbilt game or how our player performs, in my heart of hearts, I hope to look like the biggest idiot on the planet, because nothing would make me happier than seeing an upset in Lexington at Kroger Field, because I'm going to be there, even if I can't find anybody in the Door Report group willing to go with me. I got offered free tickets from a buddy that I've known for a while. Shout out to Bobby Kistler. Gave me free tickets to the Kentucky game.
You're going to be in the Kentucky season ticket section.
I will be, and it might be better if I'm solo. I would have a partner in crime in one of our riders, Jacob Scholl, but unfortunately he already had plans this Saturday. So he's one of the few people that will travel with me and knows what he's getting himself into, because he went to Notre Dame with me. He's been to quite a few tailgates and games with me, but it should be fun regardless. Check one off the list, but grab a whiskey, grab a vodka, grab a beer, grab a non-alcoholic beverage, whatever your choice is, whether underage or not. Grab a drink, sit down. No matter what happens, this is not going to be a win on Saturday, and you're not going to see a win until 2023. Anchor down.
Man, that's so sad, Will. Oh my gosh. That's sad. Although it's probably true.
The Memphis game did it to me. It drained the last bit of gasoline in my fan tank, if we're gonna be honest.
So your Vanderbilt fan tank is at 0. Like
dude, Southern Miss is gonna restore it to levels that you've seen. Like I don't even need, like, the women's basketball team getting a win kept me from going into negative. Like, it kept me at 0.1%. So you take the wins where you can get them. If Vanderbilt basketball loses to Southern Miss the next game, it might break me, Billy. You might want to stay off Twitter if Vanderbilt loses to Southern Miss, because, dude, if there's a fan that needs a college athletics victory, it's this podcast. We have weathered some storms. And what episode is this, Billy?
190.
190. And not one SEC football victory. We've sat through winless basketball conference seasons. Dude, we need some. Imagine the content we can produce with wins. Imagine what that would do for us.
That's the only thing I've been thinking of, how close we've come.
We have done all this.
We've literally –
and we've sucked. I mean, you got to keep it going.
Oh, man. So as sad as that little excerpt was from Will, it's sadly true. I mean, Missouri and South Carolina were the opportunities. I mean, let's not sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to. I remember right when we started, Will, I was the one who would do a lot of sugarcoating. I've grown past that. You know, there's not a chance anymore. Maybe at home, the Florida game is usually close, so maybe. But at this point,
it's just the talent, Billy. The talent gap has gone from, even though they're even styles and on paper, it's just, you can see the athletes, and it's gone from here to here, but it's still got to go to there to have a chance at an upset.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for, is we're looking for them to pull an up.
Yeah. And, you know, that's what we said after the Mizzou game. You know, that's what I think you harped on it more than me. You said this team, they're not ready yet. They're not ready. So, you know, and so I like the fact that you said that, Will. You know, I still thought South Carolina was maybe an opportunity, because it was. I mean, it really was. Before the season, we said Missouri, South Carolina, those were the opportunities. So, Will, we got to finish our keys real quick here. We do have Trevor Hulan coming on here. He's gonna hop on for the prediction segment, give us his pick for Saturday's game. And oh my God, y'all are gonna love the shirt he's got on. So, Will, I will go.
Did we do key number 3, by the way?
I just said we got to finish it up here.
Okay. Yeah. So we only get 2 keys, so we're half-assing it. All right, perfect.
No. We're going to get to our third key.
I once again have taken like 9 pages of notes, and I haven't used a single one of them. And I've been more worried about freaking connecting and constantly losing connection than any of the notes that I've spent hours taking.
Well, let me ask you, do you have an Ethernet cable?
Billy, I'm connected on my cellular telephone.
No, I know, but on your laptop, do you have an Ethernet for it?
Oh, it's not a lot. It says speed. Billy, I bought this laptop on sale, and it was like $129.
I'm gonna get you a laptop. Will.
Dude, I just don't. The only problem is, so I've got, my work gave me, which I hate my job, but my work gave me a Microsoft Surface Pro 7, which works for everything, like, and it's super high powered, except for things like this. And the only thing I do with anything to do with video on my personal laptop is this. So it's just been like, I need one, but it's just an expense that if we can get a sponsor, which I know is supposed to be my job initially. I know like 2.5 years ago, I was never supposed to be recording a podcast with you. Not really sure how that happened, but if we could just get a sponsor, we could stream. I could hook up an Ethernet cord. Man, this show would just be on the road.
Hey,
we'd just be an unstoppable force.
This hasn't been. I don't think this has been awful. I wouldn't say it's been great, but it's the first time in a while. So we're getting back at it. I mean,
that's always my goal. Hey, I just like when people look at me and they're like, "Hey, wasn't awful. First time in a while. Move on." That's the life motto right there, Billy.
Here we go.
Moving on to Trevor Hulan.
We got to get to our third key, though. Do you have a third key? I'll just bring Trevor on. I'll talk about my third key here.
You get your third key.
But we're gonna welcome in Trevor. Who first off, Trevor, welcome in.
How are we doing, guys? I had to pander. It just came in today. As soon as I got the email notification, I just had to go out to my mailbox, and I was like, you know what? I know what I'm wearing tonight.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know they have sweatshirts too. I think Braden McPherson, formerly of the Door Report, has a sweatshirt. So I got to get one. Will, I don't know. I know you've probably ordered one as well. So, man, let's get into it. Trevor, I was going to talk about my last key here, and I think Mike Wright. This has to be the Mike Wright legs game.
I mean, totally agree.
If you're Vanderbilt, you're not gonna have really any success throwing the football. You're not. So I think if you're Mike Wright and Vanderbilt's offense and Joey Lynch, you've got to find ways to get him out on the edge, get out, and just outrun people. That's what Kentucky's going to try to do. They're going to try to outrun Vanderbilt with guys like Barryon Brown and the weapons they have. So that was my third key. I mean, I think they're going to need a couple 40, 50-yard runs from Mike to stay in this game. I think that's one of their only shots of staying competitive in this game. So, Trev, real quick, before we get your pick, what if you had something, what has to happen for Vanderbilt to be competitive in this game?
On special teams, if Matt Hayball allows Barryon Brown to catch one punt, then he's going to take it to the house. Keep the ball out of his hands on special teams at all time. I mean, he's going to get his on offense. It's just they're going to run some little sweep, and he's going to get the corner, and he's going to outrun everybody. I mean, sort of like we've seen what Jaden McGowan has done all year. On special teams, though, you cannot let him touch the ball under no circumstances. Punt it out of bounds. Go for it on 4th and 6. I don't care. On special teams, you cannot let Barryon Brown have the ball.
No, you cannot. I mean, we've seen his speed, and that's what they're going to do. I mean, I watched that South Carolina game, and I said to myself, they're going to throw it to Barryon probably at least 10 times. And out on the edge, whether it's a swing pass, so they're going to try to do that. Will, are we ready for predictions here?
Billy, can you hear me? Can you see me? I think I was just like posing like this for a while. It took a picture when I joined and said, please apply as your new avatar, or like whatever in the settings when I was trying to rejoin the stream that I've been continuously reloading. So I think I was just posed like that with a nice smile on my face for a while, but I have no idea what you guys have been talking about. So if we're on predictions, then I'm ready to rock.
We are on predictions here.
Perfect.
Trevor, I usually start, but I'm going to let you start with your debut TDR performance here. And guys, this is, of course, first time doing this. We're going to try to make this, especially for basketball season, something that we try to regularly do somewhat just to have some interaction with you guys. So, I know we had some few comments there at the beginning, but feel free for future episodes to kind of fire your comments away. And we will be bringing other Door Report writers. Of course, Trevor has done a great job on the Door Report website with recaps and previews as well with Brian Carlson as well. So really trying to expand and grow any way we can. Trevor, let's start with you though. I like I said, I usually start. Well, we're going to start with you. Your prediction for Saturday, Vanderbilt at Kentucky, 11 a.m. kick.
I think what we thought the South Carolina game was going to be, I think a lot of people thought that was going to be a low-scoring, ugly game. Turned out to be the opposite. I think that Saturday is going to be an absolute slop fest. If you told somebody, you're like, okay, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, at Kentucky, 11 a.m. kickoff, the first thing they're going to think of is this is a disgusting ball game, and that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yep.
I think – what was the over at? It was like
47, 48 and a half.
Yeah. Hammer the under. I think we're going to see a ball game, something like here's what I think. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think probably what's going to happen is it's going to be a one-possession game all game long, and Kentucky probably has some bogus turnover at the end to make it like a two-possession game. I think we're going to see something like 24-13 Kentucky. I really do. I I love Mike. I think he's a great ambassador for the program. Just with him at quarterback, I'm not really sure what they can do. I think what's going to have to happen for Vanderbilt to even have a shot is I think Ray Davis and Patrick Smith are going to have an absolute masterclass again. Defense, front seven. I think tied last with Missouri for sacks at 13. So a bad Kentucky offensive line is going to get a break whenever they're going up against a bad, statistically speaking, front seven to Vanderbilt. It's been frustrating because you haven't seen Vanderbilt barely bring pressure on defense all year long, and it gives me the world's biggest headache. Because whenever a secondary is that bad and they can just have time to draw back and find the pockets in the zone and just kind of pick you apart, dink and dunk you for all 4 quarters. Only bringing 3 or 4 makes legitimately no sense. And I'm not a football coach at all. I mean, I'm definitely like an armchair guy, but constantly bringing 3-4 guys makes absolutely 0 sense. If Vanderbilt wants to win, they're going to need to. I want Anthony Orji, Kane Patterson, and Ethan Barr just screaming at the offensive line every single game. I love Ethan Barr. I don't want to see Ethan Barr.
We all love Ethan.
Yeah, I want to see Ethan blitz every single time. I don't want to see Ethan Barr in pass coverage anymore. Just send him. Just send him up the middle and just play with house money.
I think we've got a third co-host here, Will. Trevor's pretty damn good.
Thank you. It's just
Will, I think you're muted, by the way.
It seems so obvious.
Dude, at this point, whatever. Like, I'm trying my best. But yeah, no, Trevor, I was bowing down and praising because it's everything that he has listened to us and consolidated down every single word and thought that we have had throughout this football season, or he thinks like us, which is a dangerous trio of the 3 Stooges.
Well, and it's frustrating because like none of us get paid millions to coach football, and obviously these guys, I mean, Nick Howell has obviously forgotten more football than I know. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but some of this stuff seems so obvious that it's just
the thing about Nick Howell, give me a sec. The thing about Nick Howell, Virginia fans were praising the heavens when he left. I mean, were message boards. That to me, that's not a good sign. I mean, I know it's but message boards, like, those are where the diehards are, and you send them to Vanderbilt. And we're getting deep here, but I think there's something to that, and I think you could see, we're getting deep into the weeds here, but I think you could see a change.
I think so.
I know you've talked about it, Will.
Yeah, go ahead, Trevor. I think you had something to say there.
No, I'll just say one more, not to get off subject, but it's the most Vanderbilt thing to ever happen for Michigan to poach Jesse Minter, and he might win the Broyles this year. He's legitimately he's a top 5 assistant coach in all of college football right now. He might win the Broyles.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Billy, the best place to usually research anything that Vanderbilt does as far as if they quote unquote steal a coach or steal a player from an opposing school is always to check that message board on 24/7 Sports, and you'll know what the actual situation is. And in that situation, I really didn't see enough negative comments for me to get excited about stealing away. Coach.
No, we got a comment here. Cameron Gadd says, wait till Devin. I think he means David Davis there, because Devin Lee is back. I mean, I think David will make a little bit of a difference, but at this point, I don't know. I don't think one player will make a difference on that D-line. I don't know what you guys think.
Can he play corner? Davion Davis play corner or safety?
I think where
then otherwise it'll make no difference.
I think where he's going to help is coming back next year. I think that'll be a big help.
Okay, so this is something I was reading on my favorite message boards, 24/7 Sports, and it was underneath another friend of the podcast, Robbie Weinstein. Something he posted on the 24/7 message boards. # Thanks, Robbie. They were talking about the eligibility of Ray Davis, and I think we've kind of steered away from just pure Kentucky preview. But let's just steer away, Billy. We're live. We've had connection issues. It seems to be stable now. We've got a beautiful trio.
You were the one at the beginning saying, "Screw this, screw these lives. These suck."
Hey, dude, shut up. All right, it's been a long day. All right, and you're making me remember all the things that I wanted to say when I was trying to reconnect as well earlier. So
I got another comment here. This is my brother Scott. Howell was hired to be our DB coach, which is interesting because Jesse Minter. So Howell came on as the DB's coach, and then he was promoted. So that's something I had forgotten about. And losing Minter, and Scott said it's Vandy luck that we lose Minter after 1 year to Michigan. But I mean, his absence has made such an impact. I really do believe. Now
it's ginormous.
I mean, you saw what he did with that defense last year down the stretch. That he turned that defense into something that I don't think I ever would imagine they could have been last year. So, I mean, that losing Minter was huge. That was definitely huge. And there's the comments, Vandy luck that we lose him. And it's things like this, guys. I mean, we want some interaction. We've gotten some already here. And, this is something I think fans will grow to love. And especially with Trevor Hulan, man, here, he is, he's the guy on Twitter. I mean, I feel like you kind of run Vandy Twitter at this point. I mean, I don't have time to tweet as much as you do, but man, you carry the load for us.
It's just because it's years of watching Vanderbilt athletics has really done a number on my frontal cortex. So I just tweet the most fringe lunatic things, and sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. I'm really afraid that one day with like a relationship that she's going to like find my Twitter or something like that. And it's just going to be, she's like, who is this old manager, Avy? And it's just old Woody. And she's like, she reads 5 tweets and she's like, oh my God, this man needs to be institutionalized.
Billy, I missed the last couple minutes, but wherever this is at, like, that's already happened. So I can tell you how that's going to go. It's not going to go well for you. Like, the Twitter.
Let's put that on lockdown.
Actually, timeout. I want to rewind and say it will go well. If there's one thing that women love, it's a crazy obsession with college athletics. Like, if there's one thing that they do. So I don't know where we were in this conversation.
She's like, you want to hang out on Saturday? I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you want to come tailgate? I'll be out there at 6 a.m. And that usually is like, oh, the Tennessee football game, and I'm like, hell no.
No, God, no.
Let's go to the Vanderbilt football game. I think they might be playing UConn this Saturday, baby.
Me and my 12 closest friends.
Oh, we are going to get going. There might even be 2 or 3 people that recognize me. So that might be a real flex right there. Out of the 1,200 people at the game, 2 or 3 might know who I am. So
man, you already got me. You get Will rolling like this, he can make me cry, man.
Trevor's a bad person. Billy keeps me on the rails.
Man, I got it. Will, you haven't been that far off the rails in a while. That was great. Oh man. All right. So we got Trevor's prediction. I'm gonna get to mine. We'll save yours for last as you take a few more sips, Will. So here we go. Trevor, I like what you said about the close game because this weather is gonna suck. I mean, it really is. These players are not gonna. A lot of these guys just aren't gonna want to be out there. I mean, I'm saying it, in all honesty. There's gonna be some tough, gritty glue guys that are gonna love it. But in today's day and age, there's gonna be some kids that fake some injuries. There's gonna be a lot of stuff like that. So I do think it's gonna be low scoring. I don't know. I'm not as confident about the close game. I just don't think, especially with Kentucky, where Stoops is, even though their trajectory is down right now. I mean, I don't know how much longer Stoops stays there, but I just think Vanderbilt, the way they have played as of late, I just don't have a good feeling. Now, I do think they could have some success with Mike on the ground offensively, but defensively, I just haven't seen really anything all year to make me believe that they can go on, especially on the road. Now, I do think they play better on the road, which is something to keep an eye on. And this Kentucky team, it's like the Ole Miss preview. We said Ole Miss isn't a top 10 team. We said, I think we said South Carolina. I know they weren't ranked, but they weren't a true top 25 team when they were. And then, even Wake Forest, we were talking about that. I don't know that Kentucky is a true top 25 team. They're a good team. But, the way they looked in Knoxville, it was bad. They lost to South Carolina. So, this is a beatable Kentucky team, but I just don't think they're beatable by Vanderbilt at this moment in time. So I'm going to go very similar to a final score of last year. I'm going to go Kentucky 31, Vanderbilt 17. I'm with you, Will, but I do like some of what Trevor said. I like the fact that, it could be within a score, most of it, just because it's ugly. It's going to be a slugfest. And Kentucky's not a necessarily high-powered offense. I mean, they like to run the football, but they're not up-tempo. So, time of possession, they'll have some big, long, methodical drives. So they may not get to even 30 with how ugly this weather is and how the game goes. So, but I do think they will. I think they barely get to 30. I think 31-17 is my final score. What's the line at right now, Will? Is it 18 still?
18, 47 and a half. Sitting at the over-under right now.
Yeah, so I guess with my score, the over hits for me. But I still like what you said about the under, Trevor. I think it could be something like 24-10, 24-14, maybe something like that, where the under barely hits, something like that. So yeah, I think Vanderbilt can find some success, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. Will, I got Kentucky 31, Vandy 17, similar to last year's game.
Yeah, I tried to create my video stream freezing here by refreshing my page during your prediction and at the end of Trevor's. So I'm just going to say my prediction, and whenever I end up freezing up, and I'll have this fixed by next time, I'm going to use my roommate's gaming computer, worst case.
There we go.
We will have this fixed. That thing's way more than – he's not going to be happy. But it's way more than capable of running this. So
this is worth it.
I'm going to use next time. Yeah, but I'm just going to say my score. It's going to be really similar to yours. I didn't hear Trevor's at the end, but it's going to be 31-14. I don't think it's ever really going to feel like Vanderbilt's in the game. I think last year was 34-17 or something like that, but Vanderbilt was down 31-3 at half. I don't think it'll be that bad because Vanderbilt's taken a step forward this year. They have taken a step. Hell, they've taken 2 steps forward. I would feel confident about Vanderbilt going into almost any FCS program's home stadium and beat.
Did you lose him too, Trevor?
I did. Yes.
Okay. We'll just say, let's just wait. Let's just wait for him to come back.
I know. I've been following along, and
we got
back. There he is.
All right. Where did I cut off this time?
FCS Stadium.
Okay. This year, I think me and you and Trevor, hopefully, as he's new to the vibe here, I'm hoping this is where I cut off. That Vanderbilt could go into almost any FCS stadium outside of maybe the top 1 or 2, and they would blow the barn doors off of most of those schools, just with athletes. Yes. The problem is the gap last year was the same gap as a normal middle-of-the-pack SEC program to Vanderbilt. That was the talent gap that Vanderbilt had. Vanderbilt, I describe it as Clark Lee taking the roster of Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Tennessee, on the plateau, on the Cumberland Plateau, my alma mater. No hate. I was just there last Saturday. But it would be like taking that roster and saying, okay, now build a winning SEC football program. It's not that easy.
No.
Because you're starting from a base layer of maybe having, and I'm not hating on any of the guys. They play hard. You maybe have 3-4 guys that literally any other SEC roster would even put on their game day roster. And I think
3 or 4 is generous.
That's generous. One of them is Will Shepherd. I think he would be able to be out there. Clearly, Anthony Orji. No, he wouldn't be on a roster. Ray Davis would not be on a roster. He's a great hard runner. No. He was recruited to the school he was recruited to, and his transfer option was Vanderbilt. He wasn't recruited to one of those programs. I think that I saw a lot of tweets that were finally describing the problem with how we analyze Vanderbilt athletics, and that's the expectation is Vanderbilt athletics. And I think what the difference in our podcast is we evaluate them based on being an SEC program. And Ray Davis runs the ball hard as shit. I love him. I love Ray Davis. And he's the best running back on the roster right now. No hate to Patrick Smith. I think he has some explosive capabilities. Ray Davis is the best running back on the roster, but Ray Davis is not as good as Keyshawn Vaughn, and Keyshawn Vaughn's an SEC running back. Ray Davis is not as good as Warren Norman, and not some great names to pull up in the past, but those were SEC guys. Ray Davis is not being looked at as an NFL draft prospect. That's how you evaluate if they're SEC talent, because the best SEC teams produce the most NFL talent, and the best programs in the country produce the most NFL talent. So if your players are not being evaluated as NFL talent, they're not good enough to be in the SEC. Trent Sherfield is a great example of a guy that should be in the SEC and was under-recruited, because now he's contributing next to Tyreek Hill, getting the ball thrown to him by Tua Tagovailoa and their number 3 receiver in that explosive offense. So there were guys underneath Derek Mason that had NFL talent. That's why they went to bowl games and beat Tennessee 3 straight times. Right now on this roster is not an NFL talented roster. There's 3-4 guys that would be on that level. So as much as it is what it is. But that's why my outlook's a little bit negative.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught all that. You guys froze on my end like 7 times. So I'm really hoping everyone heard that.
We're good here, Will. We got you. Scott says Shep, Orji, DeRicky, Swann, and Mahoney. So
Swann,
I would agree with that.
Mahoney, no.
I would agree with those.
But I love Mahoney.
I agree.
Mahoney.
I agree with Mahoney.
I do too.
He missed a lot of tackles in that SC game. He's very, very, very good. I don't think he's a natural safety. I think if he was being recruited as a transfer to other SEC programs
he's had to
as a nickel slot guy, he's
right.
out of
That's
position.
That's his position. He's not a safety.
He would be on
defense,
most. Yeah, I agree. Scott's right.
Yeah, in this defense, he's had to
not
play,
as a safety though.
Right, as a nickel corner. He's one of those guys.
He's legit, but not where he's having to be put because of the talent level of everyone else. So he's out of position and being made to look worse.
Matt Hayball, Hayball. I mean, that's that's an NFL prospect.
That's another one. Yeah.
Totally forgot about Hayball.
We're gonna say 4.5.
And the thing about Ray too, we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes here too. But the thing about Ray is that I think he is similar to a guy like Sherfield, who he's got 2 years remaining, so maybe he does develop into that kind of. Maybe he gets faster, maybe he gets stronger, maybe he does. I think you talked me into somewhat off the ledge there, Will. I was just kind of going off of what he's done. I mean, what about Ray Davis? What do you think, Trev? Ray Davis? No,
I think.
He runs above a 4.5 40. It's irrelevant. Like I'm telling you, that's why he wasn't recruited to Vanderbilt, and that's why he wasn't recruited in the transfer market.
I think what he lacks in speed, which obviously for a back in the SEC is huge, I think he makes up for in the pass game. I think he's an above average receiving running back.
Yeah.
And I think he's really good in that aspect. And I think there's something else that has to be said, that this running back core is so depleted. I mean, it's just him, Patrick, and Cooper Lutz, but we haven't seen him a ton. So really it's just 2 backs, and he's the workhorse by far. So I think
none of this was hate, by the way.
No,
on Ray Davis. I'm sorry if it came off like that. Like, he is the best running back on this roster, and he's having a hell of a season. That was by no means any hate on him and how he plays.
I don't know if he would start on other SEC teams. I think he would definitely be on the roster.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's proven himself. He's 5th in the SEC this year in rushing yards. So
we always talk about what's the difference in Vanderbilt and what's the difference in speed. That is the difference in a 5-star and a 3-star. It's not hands, it's not moves, it's not IQ, it's straight line speed and quickness and quick movement. That's what Vanderbilt lacks all the time at every single position. We talk about missed tackles. It's speed. It's quickness. You can't analyze the angles on these guys because they're just faster. And it's why they produce NFL talent. And I've lost my veil, Billy, because I've seen the light. And I was we were hitting on the right. I was hitting on the right issues when I was having people dislike my opinions a lot more, and I've kind of strayed away from them. But it's the same problem. This team has to get faster. This team has to get quicker. This team has to get more athletic. And they have to be built in the mold of Anthony Orji. He can't be the exception. He has to be the rule. And until that happens, you're not going to see consistent SEC wins. You can maybe build up to the point you don't lose 26 in a row and lose 14 straight to South Carolina, but you're not going to win more than 2 games in a season until you just get faster and quicker and stronger and more athletic overall.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. And I think that's the big thing with someone like Jaden McGowan is we have not seen speed that Jaden McGowan possesses.
And even guys like Gamarion Carter.
Yes.
I mean, that was a hell of a play.
We haven't seen speed like that since maybe Brian Kimbrough.
That's a
Darius
good
Sims.
name. If he could have just held
Darius
on.
Sims. Yeah, Darius Sims was another one.
If Kimbrough could have just held on to the football, he could have been a good running back.
He could have.
Dude had some bad
we would talk about him like we talk about Keyshawn Vaughn, I think. I really believe that.
Dude, he was really good on NCAA football 14 or whatever he was on 13. He had some great speed. And I would always sub him in for Wesley Tate was the starter at that point. Man, that speed just wasn't there. That was Ray Davis. I mean, Ray Davis, he runs hard. I loved Wesley Tate. But that's somebody that maybe Ray Davis similarly reminds me of. But Ray Davis does have a little more quickness than Wesley Tate had.
An underrated thing, you mentioned that video game, Will. Vandy's number 25 in the last
forever until they produce the next.
I think as weird as it sounds, I think that has helped Vandy a little bit. Like in the perception, like of young, like kids that are probably 14 or 15 now, but in that, like when they're like 8 or 9 years old playing it, they're like, why is Vandy number 25?
It wasn't so long ago. It wasn't so long ago, guys.
It wasn't. I can envision us down the road. We're recapping a Vandy win over, on the road in Knoxville or something. Down. So
me and Billy have always said, and it's actually not even been just this season. It's been after the first SEC victory. We are going to have an in-person podcast for the first time.
We're waiting on it.
That's electric. That's an electric factory.
We're still waiting, dude. When that happens, we're gonna have a Barstool Sports type of podcast. I mean, we're getting the entire door report over to my house, and we are going to make it happen. It might be in 2023, but we're gonna make it happen.
What game next year? Non-conference. I'm getting off on a tangent. We're going to end it here, but non-conference.
Keep it going.
What non-conference game do we think Vanderbilt could pull off? I mean, Wake Forest. I know it's fairly easy other than Wake Forest, but is that Wake Forest game winnable next year? Because they don't have Sam Hartman.
Gone.
Yeah, because Hartman's gone. It's not going to be some sort of intimidating atmosphere there. That's a game I'd love to go to, actually. But I think that's a game Vandy could win next year. So do we treat that as an SEC type win, Will? I mean, I don't know. But
I say we figure something out. I say we've got a little bit of time here. We see how this basketball season plays out. I was really hoping like to build up some hype around this basketball team, like to start out with some unexpected wins. Unfortunately, the light of happiness was once again not shone down upon me, as I'm a Vanderbilt fan and a Tennessee Titans fan. So nothing good is allowed to happen in my life of sports. Injuries prevail, and bad things continue to happen. But
Will, did we ever get your prediction?
Yeah, I said it was going to be 31-14.
31-14, okay, gotcha. I had 31-17. Trevor, your score was what again? I forgot about it.
I think I said 24-13 Kentucky.
Okay, 20. I can see all those,
but different.
Yeah. Like I can see 24-31 type of score output for Kentucky, but for Vandy, I just don't see more than like 17.
I think going halftime, we're going to see something like 10-3 Kentucky.
Yeah, I can see
it's going to be an ugly game.
I think it's going to be hideous, and I think Vanderbilt's points are going to come from a turnover because with Mike Wright at quarterback, and this is my only hope because I had this whole thing written out if I looked into the analytics and they beat South Carolina, and I was going to hype this up as a game to turn around the program. None of that happened, so I don't get to go on any of it. But this Kentucky team's beatable. I mean, they're not an explosive offense. It's not like I look at them as I would like an Ole Miss at this point in the year. So that's why a little bit of me is actually going to attend that game in the bad weather because there is an opportunity. This is an explosive offense. Levis hasn't performed well. The O-line hasn't performed great. They've been an overall disappointment. And anytime you have a team of college students that are between the ages of 18 and 24, 25 now with COVID years, I mean, there's always an opportunity that's kind of warm throughout the year. Hey, don't say that until Ray Davis, like we just mentioned. He's allowed.
No,
to
Ray's fine. Hendon, dude,
I'll
did a
take
real
him.
job
He's
here.
different. He's different. Everyone else, Drew Timme, it's time, man. Like I wake up and hate my life every day and log in and look at Excel spreadsheets and fight for my life. It's time for Hendon Hooker and Drew Timme and Jake Fromm to do the same. It just is. It's only fair.
One last comment here I want y'all to comment on. I would like Walter Taylor to play Saturday. I don't hate that. I mean, he's not going to play, let's face it. But at this point, if Mike Wright gets hurt.
Ken Seals.
You
can beat Kentucky. Like as much as I just hated on this, I'm gonna go in with you can pitch if you want to do positive and negative spin, I can spin this where you can beat Kentucky. So the Tennessee game, that's gonna be doom and gloom because we also have that's gonna be hideous. But this game, I'm not ready to start saying play those guys and throw away the season because you got to remember, all these guys are young. That's the weird part of this team is it is doom and gloom because all the winnable games were in the first 4 games of the season. But being a different level of competitive and not being down 31-3 is an improvement. Getting actually beat 55-0 against Georgia is an improvement over what you saw last year. If you watched every single down and hate yourself like me and watched the game last year against Georgia and then watch the one this year.
Yeah. Hey, pause for you, Trev.
He did.
Oh, man, we love it. We'll get Will back and clear and ready to roll because
Move on.
We're going to wrap this up.
Dude, I can't get to any of the things I had written down. It's just every time I actually get into one of the things that have these notes or bullet pointed notes written, just whatever. Just move on.
Hey, I think what we realized, this Trevor guy is pretty damn good. Hack Squat Duggan, you can follow him on Hack Squat Jim Duggan. Is it Jim?
Just Jim.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
We need some. I mean, am I? Call me stupid. I don't know. Will's already laughing. So Hack Squat Jim Duggan, that's what it is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. What are you laughing at, Will?
Nothing.
No, you're laughing at something.
I just love everything about that profile. It's just perfect.
I love
you got Hack Squat / Hacksaw Jim Duggan with the picture of 90s. It's just beautiful. It's just everything about it. I didn't even realize that our writer Trevor was that account. You got to understand, I work at an investment bank 11, 12 hours a day, and I run another online store. The Door Report is what all my free time goes to, but that free time is really dumb, the dumbest part of my brain, because I just have nothing left after fighting for my life in Excel, like I mentioned before. So I didn't even realize that was Trevor's account.
My favorite thing,
and once I realized and connected that, I was like, we're going to take over the world. We're Thanos with every single Infinity Stone he needs. It's over. We have Nash. We've got Hack Squad Jim Duggan.
I love Aria Gerson's Twitter space, and I think it's the funniest thing whenever I ask a question, she's like, and we have a question from Hack Squat Jim Duggan. I don't know why. I just lose my mind.
Oh man, that's great. Will and I remember the first live we did on Twitter. I think the first Spaces was one of the recaps last year. Which one was it, Will? Was it UConn? I think it was you.
No, I hopped on that with you guys. It was Colorado State. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's the one it was. I remember that was my first. Oh man. Well, that was my first recollection, kind of realization of you. But I think we've got something brewing here. We'll have to
this
talk.
Is beautiful.
Yeah, this is beautiful. But Trevor, thanks for taking the time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
We're gonna make you a part of this, however we can, and we're gonna keep this rolling. So thanks for taking the time, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys. You have a good night. Anchor down. All
right, see you, Trev. Well, that just about does it. We got to get into our interview with Dick Gabriel. He is a WLAP 6:30 a.m. Sports talk radio host up in Lexington. I'm going to do my best to play this interview. If it doesn't come in clear, I'll stop the stream and I'll post and I'll post the full interview on our YouTube channel. So that's what we'll do here, and I'll give it my best shot here. Oh, we do have Will coming back.
Hey, Billy.
Hey, Will. Did you accidentally leave?
I guess so. I hope that the exit of that went well. Dude, I'm just gonna put more debt on my credit card. Who cares? Like, I'm just gonna buy a better laptop. I'm really tired of this. I'm tired of having bad connection. I'm gonna go and debt myself more. Unless any brand wants to tattoo yourself anywhere, it will be viewed. The amounts can be seen in my Twitter at @TheWillByram. Just sign a year-long sponsorship. This is in addition to having a live read on every single podcast that me and Billy do, being advertised in our Twitter and on our Instagram, and in my personal Twitter and Instagram. You'll be advertised. Prices are listed on my Twitter, and they are.
Oh, we'll cut out again. All right. Well, we'll catch back up, but I'm gonna play the interview with Dick Gabriel, sports talk radio host in Lexington. Welcome back into the Door Report alongside Dick Gabriel, longtime sports talk radio host up in Lexington. He's currently with 630 WLAP. And Dick, correct me if I'm wrong, you're hosting a weeknight show from 6 to 8 p.m. there in Lexington. Of course, they're in Kentucky, long-time sports talk radio show host. So, Dick, thanks for taking the time to come on.
My pleasure.
I want to first start with Kentucky this season, and we'll talk about the game from last week against Missouri, a tight win for the Wildcats. But for Kentucky this season, how surprised have you been by some of the outcomes? Of course, you had the close loss against Ole Miss, really the domination in Knoxville. All right, so it doesn't look like the connection is too good, but what I'll do is I will post that entire interview on our YouTube channel, and I will attach that to the podcast, so you will be able to listen to our interview with Dick Gabriel, and we will attach that also on our YouTube channel. So thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to another episode of The Door Report, powered by Alaco Fine Wood Floors.